Good evening. Can everybody hear me like this? Good. So, who is familiar with the idea, the concept of parallel realities? Raise your hand. Who's not familiar with it? Cool. Good. Okay. Well, this is one. And 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 this is one. Every moment that you have an experience, you're quite literally experiencing an alternate reality. Things have changed. Now the assumption is that things change within the same linear, consistent reality, but that's not actually true in my experience. So it's not that there is one reality within which your molecules actually move around, so to speak. We're not in the one same linear reality within which the objects move around independently. Every change is a complete change. Every change is a complete shift. Every motion, every movement is a completely different reality. That means that there's many different realities between my hand being over here and my hand being over here. But consciousness can configure those realities, or can view those realities so seamlessly that it seems like it's one continuous reality. When in fact, I'm in one reality, 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 etc., constantly, consistently. That in a nutshell is the idea of parallel realities. Now, one very important thing that comes with this understanding is that your sense of time starts to become completely different. When you really understand the concept I just briefly touched upon, and I'll explain some more, the thing that disappears is linear time. It doesn't completely disappear. It can still be there. It's still there, but you see that it is an illusion. You see that it is a projection. You see that it is an agreement. The idea that there is linear time is an agreement. It's not an actual physical, mechanical, energetic fact of the universe. So the idea of parallel realities brings with it the idea of nonlinear time. Or from another point of view, you could say timelessness. The fact that there is no linear time. So take consciousness, just to start with. You are conscious of my voice, are you not? Are you not?
Yes.
Thank you. So you are conscious of my voice. You're conscious of your body sitting in the chair that you're sitting in. Has there ever been an experience where you were not conscious of that experience? Have you ever experienced the reality without consciousness? No. Good. All right. So everything that ever existed has only appeared to or inside of your consciousness. Just like the entirety of your dream at night, even though it may seem out there, even though it may seem like you're visiting actual places, it's all happening inside of your consciousness. Reality is exactly like this. So you've never experienced, no one has ever experienced, no consciousness has ever experienced a reality outside of its own consciousness. That's because there is none. There is no reality outside of consciousness. There is no projection, there is no experience outside of consciousness. Or another way of saying that is, nothing exists independent from consciousness. Objects do not have beingness. Appearances do not have existence on their own. They depend on consciousness. Just like the experiences, again, in your dream at night, they don't have beingness of their own. They don't have existence of their own. It's not that they exist and you go visit them, and then you leave and then they still exist. You project that you're going somewhere, but that's all happening inside of absolutely still, motionless consciousness. So you are the center of the universe. That's the basic idea. That's the basic realization that you can have. I won't go too deeply into that now because that is a whole different topic in and of itself. And I'm kind of assuming you have some kind of familiarity with that if you've come to my meetings before. But basically just assume, even if you don't believe it's true for now, just assume that consciousness, which is what you are, which is what is listening to my voice, which is what you cannot escape, no matter how hard you try. You can run away from this meeting, you'll still be conscious. You can be hit by a car, you'll still be conscious. You can go talk to your mother, you'll still be conscious. Maybe a little less conscious, but you'll still be conscious. So consciousness is always there. Every experience you have meets inside of consciousness, inside of you. You can never change you. You can never leave you. You are inescapable. You as consciousness, you as awareness, you as the witness are inescapable. You as sentience, as beingness, are inescapable. You can feel into that for a moment if you stop thinking for 2 to 5 seconds. Just stop thinking. Give away all your thoughts. And notice the space that remains, the clarity, the consciousness that is still here, the I am that still exists. The very obvious, overwhelming sense, I exist. Exists whether you're thinking or not thinking. But when you're not thinking, it becomes very clear that I exists independent from everything that appears. Regardless of what appears, you exist. Right? Okay. So consciousness can never be escaped. And it's the ground of all experiences. It's the meeting point of all experiences. So now that you know that consciousness is the meeting point of all experiences, in fact, it's the center of the universe. You can start to imagine that within this consciousness, there is the availability of infinite possibilities. Infinite possible configurations of energy, as I call it. Energy, which is one of the aspects of consciousness energy, can shape itself into whatever is possible. So on a universal, cosmic, infinite scale, everything that can ever exist already does exist. Any possible configuration of energy that can ever be made or created already exists. Where you shift your consciousness into determines your experience. And so consciousness sets itself up in such a way in this life, in this experience that you're having right now, that it creates or that it shifts into a reality, a view of reality that then looks very similar to the previous one, and then very similar to the previous one, and then very similar to the previous one. It does this so that it can have the illusion, it can generate the illusion of a linear timeline. But in fact, every single nanosecond is a completely 100% different new reality. Not new because it already existed, but new to you from your point of view, from your I am consciousness. So you don't move around inside of an actual world. You change worlds every nanosecond inside of you. Does that make sense? Okay, go ahead. So one way to imagine this is to take the example of a movie, when you go and watch a movie. Now you know that a movie consists of images, no? Each image is its own complete 100% reality. One picture has no relationship whatsoever to the next picture, even though it looks very much alike. But you can cut them in half. You can take one picture, bring it to China, put the other one in a space shuttle and send it all the way to the other side of our galaxy. They have no relationship whatsoever. Even though they look so similar, the only thing that changed is the motion of a finger, the movement of a finger. So one picture, the actor's hand is over here. In the next picture, his finger slightly moved. That is, from a visual point of view, the only difference between these two images. However, from the point of view of the image itself, it doesn't know what it looks like. And all it knows is that it's its own complete reality, and that its molecules have no relationship to the molecules of the previous image, what we call previous image. So you see, it's up to the observer to create the sense of time. Based on this image and then this image and then this image, we as the observer of one image to the next image to the next image can say that there is a previous and a next image. We can say that this came first and then that appeared. First my hand was over here and then it moved over there. From the perspective of the hand, nothing ever changed. Because there is only one hand in that particular reality. The one that is slightly more over to the left, it is a completely 100% different reality that has no notion whatsoever of the other parallel reality. Does that make sense? So you can see that if you were to slow down a movie, a motion picture, which is what it is, a motion picture, picture in motion, and that is what life is too, you would see that you could freeze a segment. And what would that look like? What does one complete reality look like? If you would not shift automatically into the next reality, it would look like everything was absolutely frozen. Hypothetically, you can keep your consciousness in one such picture. It's not really relevant for most people to experience that, but it is hypothetically possible that you could slow down that process to the extent where all you're aware of is one timeless, total configuration of universal energy. So, every time you change, which is all the time, your reality changes. It's a constant reflection of who you are. It's a constant reflection of the frequency of your consciousness, the state of your consciousness, the point of view of your consciousness. So right now, again, you're in a 100% completely different reality than you were in 10 seconds ago, even a nanosecond ago. But to make it more obvious, 10 seconds ago, that was a completely different universe. This is a completely new reality. This is a completely new reality. This is a completely new reality. And so what does that do to the idea of time? It actually makes it malleable, it makes it yours. It makes it influenceable, instead of this static, projected, externalized idea that you are somehow a victim of. Suddenly time as an actual linear idea starts to seize in your mind, in your consciousness. And when a certain belief system starts to seize in your mind, then all the limitations that came with that belief system start to seize for your experience. So the more fully you understand this, the more fully you will be able to influence time, because the more fully you'll be able to totally experience and know and see how reality is actually structured, how it actually works. And when you see very clearly how it works, you can start to actually using the consciousness that is already master of your universe anyway. You can start utilizing that more consciously to generate certain results or effects, if you so desire, if that is relevant for you. So time literally does not exist, because every reality is completely timeless. It exists with no time. Every potential one moment experience, one complete snapshot of the universe, exists eternally, has always already been there, will always be there. So your reality does not change. You shift into different realities. Therefore you generate the experience of change, the experience of time. But time is only an experience. It's not a mechanical, structural fact. Does this difference make sense? Can you see how time is subjective? It's not actually objective. And when you realize time is subjective, interesting things start to happen. We could just generally call that acceleration. It's the acceleration of your understanding of who you are, of the power that you are, the consciousness that you are. And you start to embody these ideas much more. You start to embody the power of consciousness much more, and you'll be able to actually influence, in that sense, the time frame, or the, not so much the time frame, but the reality that you choose to experience next for yourself. So if you understand, reality consists of individual times. And one way to visualize this is to imagine a floor. Just imagine this floor being absolutely blank, absolutely empty, except for pictures. So there's endless rows of pictures filling up this room. So everywhere you look, there's a picture. Now, if you start at the top left corner of the room, of the floor, you see the picture of your birth. And if you go all the way back to the picture in the down right corner of the room, you see the picture illustrating your death and everything in between there. If you realize that this is the way reality operates, you can start to make changes. You can start to make changes to your past. You can start to make changes to your future. You can start to therefore experience a different present. Why? Because you realize that the present is the key to experiencing time in the way you wish to experience it. Because what is the present? If all pictures already exist, if all potential possible configurations of energy already exist, then there's no time in that. There's no choice in that. There's no freedom in that. The freedom lies in the present. Which is the present? What is the present moment? If everything already exists, future already exists, past already exists, then what is the present? The present is you. You are the present. You are the now. Your consciousness is now, is it not? That is all that's ever going to be now. The reality you experience right now already existed 100 trillion billion years ago. That's right, this conversation already took place. In fact, it's happening still, and tomorrow it will still be happening. That is because consciousness essentially, on its most fundamental level, which again is not relevant for most people to experience, nevertheless it's the truth, there is no time whatsoever. So in a sense, the Big Bang, what the Big Bang is the explosion that caused all possible realities that could ever potentially be created to be created at an instant, at once. Everything was created at once. You're not actually creating anything new in terms of a new configuration of energy. If you build a sandcastle in a particular way, it may be beautiful, we could call it art, and it is, but you're not creating something that did not exist before. What you're doing, though, is you're generating a new relationship with the structure that already existed in your future, and you have now made that manifest in your now. Again, what is the now? The now is your consciousness. So what does it mean to manifest your reality from this point of view? To manifest your reality simply means to shift your consciousness to a vibration where it will let the picture fall into the projector screen. You know these old picture slides? You know those how do you call those things? You know those tiny little things, and you go like, just slides? Okay, cool. So, and you allow a different slide to fall into your projector beam. So every time you change your state of being, you will start to see significant changes in the slides that fall into the slot of your projector, of your consciousness. The slides already existed. Just because you made one manifest now and you removed the other one does not mean the other one does not exist. Because you see, you cannot take anything away from existence. You can't take something out of existence. And you can't similarly place something into existence, because where would it come from? So everything that can ever exist already exists, cannot be removed, and cannot be added to. Everything you can come up with that you think you could add to existence has already been thought of at the moment of the Big Bang and has already been created. Now this Big Bang thing is just a symbol. So you can't remove anything from existence. That includes your past experiences. That includes all other possible past experiences that you chose not to have, which is infinite. There's endless different pasts that belong to you in a sense, or could have belonged to you. They still exist as well. Your past still exists as well. You cannot take a potential reality, a potential manifestation of energy away from the universe. You can't do that. You see, so structurally speaking, there is no time. Nothing new is ever created. Everything that can exist already does exist. Not only everything that can happen will happen, but everything that can exist already does exist and will always exist. Anything that can exist will always already exist. So knowing this, your sense of time starts to become a little warpy, a little weird, because it takes all human perspective away, everything you're used to in that sense. But it opens you up to a way more empowered way of actually living your life, a more divine way of living your life, a more empowered, conscious way to live your life and influence what we call the experience of time. So when you change the frequency of your light, of your consciousness, of your now, of the present moment, and for lack of a better word, we could call that your vibrational attitude. So just very briefly, your vibrational attitude is simply how you view yourself in any given moment, how you experience life in any given moment, how you experience yourself, what your state of being is like, what you are in a sense emitting, the energy, the frequency of your being, the state of your consciousness. That is your vibrational attitude. We all know this, we all constantly have a vibrational attitude. That's why we constantly generate a particular slide out of the field of all that is, to fall into our particular slot of I am consciousness. Our particular view of reality is now filled with a particular slide because we were vibrating at a certain speed of consciousness, at a certain rate of energy. And everything that we perceive always matches our frequency. Because in that sense, physical reality is just like a mirror. It doesn't actually do anything to you. It's not actually set in stone for you. All it ever does is reflect you all the time, all the time, all the time. It's reflecting you. It's mirroring your state of being, your vibrational attitude, your consciousness. Your particular configuration of consciousness turns into a particular configuration of experience, or reality, or perception. Does this make sense so far? Yes? Awesome. So how do you influence time? Well, you don't actually influence time because time does not exist. So it's just a way of saying, how do you shift into an alternate universe? How do you more consciously shift into a parallel reality? Because, remember, you're already doing this right now, otherwise you could not hear my voice move from the first letter of my sentence to the last letter of my sentence. You would be stuck at one letter, at one thing. So all the time you are creating your reality, you are shifting from one reality, to one configuration of energy, to one configuration of the universe, to one potential creation. You're constantly doing this on automatic pilot. It's great, it's fantastic. It allows you to be the victim of your own creation so that you can have the subjective experience of the illusion of time, the illusion of a particular personal theme that goes from A to Z. But in reality, you are generating that for yourself. You are creating that. It's not actually the case. There's not just one life that you can live, that you are living. You're not stuck in this one life. You never have been. There's infinite parallel lives that look very similar, and there's infinite parallel lives that look nothing like who you are today. And my intention is to help you understand that you can become therefore anything you desire to become. And you are not stuck in the conditioned reality that you have been given by your previous choices and your previous creations. You can understand this principle to such an extent that 6 months from now, if you start to, even if this is the first time you hear about this principle, 6 months from now, even sooner, but I'll be liberal just so that you start to believe a little bit of what I'm saying, because I notice there's a lot of new people today. If you truly understand this principle and you start practicing what I'm sharing, 6 months from now, you will not recognize yourself. I guarantee you. You will not be able to recognize yourself. You will look back upon pictures, you'll maybe see a video of yourself, and you'll be like, oh, who's that guy? Who's that person? What do they have to say? You'll start forgetting things, which is a good thing, by the way, because it allows for so much space for new things, you see. It doesn't mean that you actually necessarily forget things. If someone brings up a memory, you can still tap into that. Perhaps sometimes not, depending on how distant that reality is to your present frequency of being. But in general, you start to simply become more slippery. You start to become more empty, more free, more available for your present now to become whatever you desire it to become. You stop living in the illusion of a linear reality that has a given past and a given future, and you start waking up to the fact that there is no time, there only is now, and that you can insert into the field of now whatever vibratory pattern you wish to insert, whatever vibrational attitude you wish to carry yourself with. And then as you start doing that, you start to see that reality warps around you, not the other way around. You are, in that sense, a God. You are, in that sense, a creator. You are not a victim. You are not a slave. You are not a beggar. You have created this reality already. I'm not teaching you anything new. Again, if you did not already perfectly know how to do this, you would not be able to follow this conversation. You'd be stuck in time, in one moment in time. But effortlessly so, you choose, alongside with me and all the people here, to generate some sort of a consensus parallel reality, and we're all moving because our frequencies, our alignment is in alignment. Our vibrations are similar enough to where we can generate the illusion of a consensus reality that moves from the start of this meeting to the end of this meeting 2 hours later. All the while, all that's happening is that we're now, and we're projecting a different image and a different image into the now, into the now, into the now, into the now. And we're picking our images out of a field of infinite parallel probable realities. This is the one you chose. In another one, I'm saying something else to you right now. But you chose this particular one because it's relevant for you. Now, I'm not saying that you're doing this with your conscious brain self. You can more and more participate, co-create with your brain self, with your, in a sense, lower consciousness, shall we say, or person consciousness, or I am here now consciousness. But for most people, this has been given away completely to, quote-unquote, their higher self, their higher consciousness. Consciousness has infinite levels as well. So you're experiencing yourself at the level that you assume yourself to be at. If you start assuming yourself to be at a very, very high level of consciousness, you will start to actually become that level of consciousness. And you will start to be able to influence your particular timeline. Not your time, but your timeline. The illusion of a timeline that you generate by going from this picture to that picture, back to this picture, to that picture, to that picture, that. You see, that one particular line literally is your timeline based on every slide that you chose. If you chose one image next to it, and then 2 images next to the next one, and then 3 images next to the one that you otherwise would have chosen, then your timeline would have looked different. Maybe slightly so, but still. 100% so from the reality of the picture itself. You had chosen a 100% different reality. If you choose picture B, which is right next to picture A, and all that's different is the placement of one single atom. From the position, from the place, from the vantage point of that reality itself, that is still 100% completely independent reality from the other reality that has all the similar frequencies except for that one atom. It's still a 100% different reality. You could take one over to China and one to the other end of the galaxy. They would still exist as their own selves. They have no structural relationship whatsoever. Your past has no structural relationship to your present whatsoever. 5 seconds ago has no relationship to this second whatsoever. My hand is not over here because it came from here. My hand is always going to be over here. And here it's always going to be over here. And here it's always going to be over here. And it was never moving. It was never on its way from here to here. I shifted my consciousness to this reality, and then the one where it's timelessly here, then timelessly here, then timelessly here, then timelessly here, then timelessly here. So you could call these the flickers of reality, the flickering on and off of reality. And there's even sciences or scientists and ancient yogis and rishis that have said the same thing. They say that basically the universe turns on and off in terms of consciousness. It turns on and off all the time, but so fast, it's like a flickering light switch. But it happens so fast that we do not perceive it. So in one moment, one potential configuration of energy becomes active. And then the very next nanosecond, another potential reality becomes active. Just imagine literally taking the light switch of this room and going so fast to the point where all you see is continuous light. But really that's not what's happening. And you can see that with certain types of light, where the frequency of it going on and off is so low that you have a sense, you even get a headache sometimes, you have a sense of it flickering in and out. Or all television screens, where the hertz is at a lower frequency than you can perceive, you will see that half of the time there is no reality, there is no experience, there's no light. And then half the time it's on again, off, on, off, on, off, off. Similarly, if you increase your frequency, your perceptual frequency, you will start to discover more of the illusion of the flickering in and out of existence of your higher self's creation. Does that make sense? Awesome. Okay.
Can you repeat that?
Yes, I can. Yes. Nice. Me too. What did I say? Oh yes, the flickers. Yes, thank you. So when you increase your perceptual frequency, the vibration, the vibratory state of your now, when you increase that vibration, which to us is known, physically speaking, as happiness, as joy, as excitement, as bliss, as ecstasy, as inspiration, as creativity, as feeling like you're on top of life instead of underneath it. So anything that in that sense gives you a great sense of joy is anything that aids you in increasing your vibration, your vibratory state, your vibrational attitude. When your vibrational attitude increases, literally what happens is that your supposed point on the ladder of infinite levels of consciousness, where you place yourself, goes up the ladder, goes up the ladder, goes up the ladder. And every step that you take higher, every time you increase your frequency or your vibration in that sense, those are just words, but feel into what I'm saying. Every time you expand yourself, every time you know yourself to be more God and less victim, more creator and less slave, more on top of life and less underneath some kind of heavy piano, you change the frequency literally of your proposed consciousness to become more of another level of consciousness which also already existed, was also already operational, but you simply were not aware of it from your point of I am, from your sense of identification of who you are. So every time you increase that, you start to see a new reality, a different reality, and you start to gain access to more and more of your innate power to actually influence your reality. This, as long as you suppose yourself to be the victim, as long as you assume yourself to be the victim, you will only get victim power, which is very limited. It's intelligent. Higher consciousness will never give full creation power to the victim, because it would destroy the universe, in a sense. It would go mad, it would go crazy. But if you increase your frequency to the God level that you already are, then you can start to see some real changes in your life and in your ability to actually positively affect the course of your timeline, extract more benefit from the experiences that you've already generated for yourself, increase the speed at which you move through your theme, through your lifetime's theme of exploring a certain kind of idea, which is why you're here, to explore something, to become something, to express something, to share something, to learn something. Now, the more you assume yourself to be the victim of your own creation, the more static you'll be, like ice. The more you increase your frequency, as the molecules start heating up and they start dancing in the ice, it starts to melt. And the H2O becomes more malleable, becomes more empowered. Similarly, when you increase your frequency and your molecules start dancing up and down with joy, with excitement, with passion, with knowing that you're God, knowing that you are the creator of your reality, knowing that you are the chooser of your universe, knowing that you are the eternal now, which is in total control of its next picture, then you start to become more empowered to actually make changes until you turn into steam, in a sense, which represents non-physical consciousness, which represents much more full remembrance of who you actually are, what you're here to do, and you can then move faster, move faster. Ice cannot move fast. Have you ever seen a glacier move? Yeah? No? Oh, it's pretty, thank you, yeah. Oh yeah, it's pretty slow. So, have you ever seen steam move? It's pretty fast. It can go anywhere. Similarly, you can start to move really fast, meaning that you start to learn from your lessons because you gain access to higher intelligence, higher form of reasoning. Your mental body becomes the higher mental body, in a sense. You start to understand things. You can start to see things from a higher, grander perspective, and so things fall into place that much quicker for you. You can see a certain scenario with certain people in it, and certain emotions or thoughts arise in yourselves and in them, and in an instant you can know what's going on. You don't have to figure it out. You don't have to think it through. In an instant, you know what's happening. And so you can move on to the next thing. What is the solution? In an instant, you know what the solution is. Well, how should I behave right now to most positively accommodate this scenario of these 10 people's dynamics? And you got the answer. That's how you do it. And then that, and then that, and then that. So you learn super fast. You act super fast. You act in an empowering way, in a beneficial way. You start to actually become intelligent, as man is supposed to be. You become less and less like a sheep, and more like a lion, an intelligent one, like a leopard. You become intelligent. You become fast. You're no longer helpless. You're actually creating, and you're actually being of benefit to yourself and everyone else, rather than just unconsciously going about your day, being schlepped around by your thoughts, by your emotions, by your vibrations, not knowing who you are, sending out to the universe, to your creation, all kinds of mixed ideas and frequencies, not having a clue of what you're here for, which is all fine and perfect. And no one is necessarily to blame for that. There's no blame. There's no judgment. But it is helpful to observe this and to let that inspire you to say no to that mode of being. And this all depends on how much you care about your existence. If you don't care very much, then that's fine. And you can keep being sheep-like. You can keep being a victim. However, if you care about being alive, if you're excited about the potential that this incarnation, that this creation offers you, then you start thinking, then you start asking questions, then you start coming to meetings like these. And then when a little brat like me tells you that maybe there is an even higher step you can take for yourself, you take it. You fucking take it. Because you care about your life. Because you care about not just going through it unconsciously with the biases that you've been taught by society and what's moral, what's not moral, what your daddy taught you, what your mommy taught you, living in fear of rejection and living in the seeking of love. You start actually acting consciously, and you start actually taking control of your own vibratory state. And when you do that, life becomes enjoyable. It becomes fun. How fun would it be to wake up every day? So this is the old life, right? How fun is it really to wake up every day and to be put in your hand, there's placed a pencil, and you are drawn to your canvas, and then somebody else is drawing with your hand, and you just are forced to look at it until you go to bed. There's no food, nothing. And you don't like anything you see. It's like, who the fuck is this artist? You can't do shit. But, oh well, I don't know who I am, so fuck it. I don't care about my life. I'll just go sit on the couch if I can. Okay. How fun is that? Is that fun? Are you enjoying what you see that you pretend you're not creating? That invisible hand is your hand. It does not exist. You're drawing. But you don't realize that you have the power to create whatever you want. You can suddenly stop the pencil, pick a different color, and draw all over your previous creation. Now, how fun would it be to wake up every day and to choose whether or not you feel like painting? And if you choose that you want to paint that day, you pick up the pencil that you prefer, the one that actually feels like it suits your mood, and then you start dipping into colors that you like, and then you start painting the shapes that you like. And you can take a break whenever you want to. You can go have some food. You don't have to look at it all the time. You can go call your mom again if you want to. And get back to your painting. Now, if your life is your canvas, if this is really true what I'm saying, and it is, whether you believe it or not, then you can actually start to generate a reality of your desire, of your preference, of your alignment, of your truth, of your theme. Not yet, but thank you. Can you save your question? Soon. Oh, you were just... No, I'm with you. Awesome, nice. Thank you. Yes. Oh, as soon as I'm ready, I have a question. Okay, not yet, but thank you. Hold on to that. So, one thing that's very crucial to understand is that you're constantly sending out a message. I know this sounds sort of new agey, but it's true. You constantly send out a message. To what? To yourself, to your creation, to the mirror that reflects you. You're constantly shaping the mirror that reflects you. So you got to be a little bit mindful of what you're sending out right now. What are you thinking right now? You'd be surprised how unconscious people are of what they're thinking on a daily basis. Or maybe you're not, because maybe you're one of them, I don't know. Maybe you don't see it. But as soon as you start increasing your consciousness, your level of consciousness, you see everyone just be sheep-like. They have no idea what they're thinking. They have no idea why they're saying what they're saying. There is no clarity, there's no decision. In any single one of their choices, there is no decision. No decision is ever made. It's just random choices. And then they wonder why their life seems so incoherent. Well, that's why, because that's what you're creating. You're creating, I don't care about my life. You created for me. What is you? Your conditioning. So you're basically telling your parents, your friends, your childhood teachers, the people on television, the advertisements you see, you're giving away your power to all of that, all your influences, and you say, I don't care about my life, I don't care about being happy, I don't care about feeling good, I don't care what I came here for, this is a waste of energy anyway, you guys go right ahead, create my life for me, I'll just watch it. Right? That's not a recipe for happiness. Let me tell you that. It's not. But there is a recipe for happiness. Otherwise I would not be doing this. I'd be just doing the same thing. So I'm sharing this with you because there is a recipe. There's a solution to the unconscious madness, to the rambling that you're not even aware of. And that is to become aware of it and to start choosing your vibration, to start choosing your state of being, to start choosing what you believe in, to start choosing where your attention goes. Because where your attention goes is where the energy will flow. So if on a random automatic pilot, because you assume you have no power, you just let it ramble on, you just let it send out whatever frequency you've been taught to send out, then what you'll see is a very mixed bag of things. You'll see a life that seems completely random, that seems completely taken care of you for you, but not in a positive way per se. Just taken care of in the sense you have no free will. It just happens. Perhaps you have free will in terms of whether you picked a green or a red apple. But if you're even unconscious of that choice, then you'll pick which one you're going to pick. So free will is a given of the universe, but it's dependent upon your level of consciousness as to how much access you regain to your original free will. If you are being very unconscious, acting very unconscious, if you don't care very much about your life, which is fine, if you don't care very much about your life, then you create the illusion of lacking free will, precisely because what you create with is the unconscious part of your consciousness, of your mind. Now, if you want to make this conscious, you got to start practicing. I know this sounds boring. It sounds tedious. Maybe it doesn't. But it's actually very practical. It's actually very effective. And here's the good thing. You start seeing results immediately. Immediately. Which will then feedback you in a positive way, which will then give you confidence and transformation and confirmation so that you can continue to do this and expand this until you reach levels of things that you can't even imagine yet. You start to understand and see and be able to create at speeds and things that you don't believe is possible from your present vibratory state of consciousness. Why? Because you're right. You cannot create that from your present vibratory state of consciousness. But by the time that you're at that state that I'm talking about, you will be in such a different vibratory state of consciousness that you will have access to these things, and it will be like breathing to you. It will be as normal, as normalized as it is for you to choose whether you want the red apple or the green apple. But things that you call magic from your point of view will then be the next normal stage of life. And things start speeding up once again. Your creation starts to reflect your true desires more and more and more. But you have to be mindful of what you're telling your universe. What are you telling your universe right now? What are you believing in? What are you seeing? What are you sensing? What are you vibrating at? Can you become aware of that right now? Just tune into yourself. What assumption are you under right now? You're always under a certain assumption. One being that gravity exists, for example. You didn't notice that, right? It's an assumption that you assumed. That's why it's an assumption. That's why it was unconscious. It was created for you so that you can live the life of walking on planet Earth, not having to wonder why you flew off the planet. So it's helpful, it's irrelevant. Nevertheless, it was an assumption. It was part of your unconscious consciousness. But it was created out of that unconscious agreement. What I'm sharing this with you because it's just one example of showing you that you assume a ton of things at any given moment, including myself. We all assume a ton of things at any given moment that we're unconscious of. And that's quite all right, because many of these things serve us. But many of these things do not serve us anymore. They're no longer relevant to be unconscious. They can now be transformed to be made conscious and chosen from, whether or not you still prefer that creation, that agreement with your reality. So, make yourself more aware of what you're sending out right now. What is the message you're putting off? What does your state of being feel like? Do you feel happy? Do you feel abundant? Are you looking forward to the next image? Or are you sort of like, meh? Because guess what? What will the next image be like? Meh. But if you change your state of being, the next image will suddenly start to look a little brighter. And then the next one after that will suddenly start to look a little brighter. And then you get confirmation and you become even brighter because now you believe that you are an infinite creature with infinite potential. And that is a very empowering belief. And that is in alignment with your higher self. Therefore, you take yourself up that much more towards that higher self-consciousness vibratory state. More happiness ensues. More power to create ensues, and the reflection confirms that. And again you expand, again you become more confident that you're not a victim, that you're not a physical creature, that you're actually a consciousness with a state of being, and that's it. The body is part of the image you put in front of your eyes. You are not the body walking about an actual world. The body came with the world you created. When you're drawing a picture on a canvas, and you draw a little guy in there with 2 legs and 2 arms, a little head and a little torso. Are you that little guy or girl? Or is it part of the image you've created? Is it inseparable from the canvas, from the world that surrounds it? When you go to sleep at night and you dream you have a body, do you actually go to a body and become that body? Or are you dreaming into existence a body that's inseparable from the environment that you're also dreaming into existence? If you're ever confused how physical reality works, reference your dreams, and it works exactly like that. Exactly. So, this body, you're dreaming into existence right now, and it's not the same body as half a second ago. It's a 100% different body because it's a 100% different universe, and it comes with a different package. But you're not the package. You're the consciousness that chooses to be aware of a certain package with a certain reality. Does that make sense? You're not the body. You're also not your personality. Oh my God. Can you be free from your own personality? Yes, you are all the time. You are consciousness with a state of being, and that's it. There's no personality in that. Personality is a choice. It's like a coat you wear. It's like a package. It's like the body. It's like the world you create. It's like another snapshot. One day you can be this personality, the next day you can be that personality. Whatever suits the moment. Whatever suits your mood. Whatever you feel like is genuine for you in that moment, you can express yourself through those means, and become that personality with that body in that world and enjoy yourself in that creation. Until you feel a calling to consciously recreate, to take a step back, to pause for 2 to 5 seconds. Take a deep breath. Recognize that you are consciousness. And then change your frequency and therefore choose another image. Alter your timeline. Suddenly, instead of it going like this, it goes like somewhere else. You could have also kept on going there. And this jarring moment of the intersection time frame where you suddenly shift into an alternate timeline, you're always already in a parallel reality. So it's flawed to say that you shifted into an alternate reality because you do that all the time. But the trajectory that you were seemingly following throughout these different points of view of reality now so drastically changes because you made a significant change in your identity, in your understanding of yourself, in your desire for yourself. That it jarred your reality, it jarred you, your state of being, your personality, your body even. And now you're assuming a different path. And you're actually going in a different quote-unquote direction. Not that there is a direction when there's infinite options available that are always already existent. There's no direction. It's directionless. There's infinite directions, you could say. And you're never going in one direction. But seemingly so, for your experience, it's like your timeline changed. You jumped a few frequencies. And therefore, the song that you're playing, the creation that you're creating is different. Again, how do you do this? You change your state of being, regardless of your circumstances. Very important point. Regardless of your circumstances. Did you know that you can feel however you want to feel, regardless of what appears in front of your eyes? Nice. Somebody could be flipping you off, and you could be absolutely happy about that. Or you could be absolutely distraught about that. Up to you. But if you choose to be absolutely offended by that, the next image will not be pretty. You'll be punched in the face. But if you choose to be happy about that anyway, he might still punch you in the face, but your experience will be different of it, and the picture after that will be guaranteed to be much more in alignment with who you truly are, because you stood the test of your circumstances and you stayed true to your new state of being, regardless of what occurred in your visual perception of energy. So stay true to your state of being, the desired state of being. Make it conscious. Don't just let it run your life. See how much you're assuming right now. You're assuming so many things. You're assuming so many things. And they're all generating your reality. And therefore they create the cohesive illusion that reality is real, solid, and true. That's because your thoughts always match up with your reality. So it's, in a sense, it's a little difficult to change that. But it's not. It just seems like it is. But the more consciousness you bring into your existence, into your experience, the more you can change your thinking, your consciousness, your attention, your vibratory state. And then suddenly, you notice that you can generate different realities. Shift into an alternate universe. Don't like the way things look. Change your reality. Why not? Because you didn't know it was possible. You thought that if there's something here right now, then that must mean that that is what is. And what have we been taught? To always refer back to what is. Very bad habit. Very, very bad habit. Always refer to what is. If you're confused about life, just get real. Get really real. What is real? Taxes? Mortgage? Marriage? Kids? Responsibilities? Having to put food on the table? Those things are real. Reference that what is, that which is. That will make you, what, happy? No, hell no. That will make you, yes, depressed, crazy. So crazy, in fact, that you believe that your craziness is reality. Now that is crazy. I think people call that delusion. So, choose your delusion wisely, because it will appear real to you. You can choose your delusion. You can choose your reality. You can choose your consciousness. Every time we reference what is, meaning that our present manifestation becomes the container for the next set of thoughts that you're having, for the next set of beliefs that you're having, for the next set of intentions that you're setting, then you will always generate a reality, a container, a manifestation that looks like the previous one and the previous one and the previous one. You will, in a sense, you will still be shifting through billions of parallel realities, but they will all be of a similar vibratory pattern that they will not look very different. And they will not reflect that much more love and light back to you. They will be of the same density of being. Does that make sense? So that's why I always say, don't take your cue from your circumstances, ever. As soon as you, because this is what happens. People go, okay, what do I want? Well, this is what I have now, this is what I have now, this is what I have now, so what can I do with that? Very, very bad habit. Wrong way of thinking. It should be, this is what I have, this is what I have, this is what is real right now, so fuck all that. I want something completely different. Imagine that. Tune into that. And it will become reality. Imagination is your most powerful tool. It is consciousness. Imagination is consciousness. It is real. You can't imagine something that is not present inside of existence. You can't imagine something that doesn't already exist. So whenever you imagine something, that exists. And it's just waiting for you. Where? Not even half a centimeter away from you. It's right there within the same point of your consciousness, which is the meeting point of all of creation. It's the center of the universe and all universes that coexist with it. There is no distance between this reality and that reality. Between $10 and $10,000. Between a partner and no partner. There is no difference between that reality. There's no distance. They coexist within the same 0 point, within the same singularity of consciousness. So all that it takes is a different vibration, and it will start to manifest itself for you. In terms that make sense to you, meaning that most likely, although you can have these experiences as well from time to time, but most likely it will do it in a logical way. But you don't have to worry about that. It will just do that for you. Meaning that, okay, suddenly this person shows up and asks you to go to that concert that you just imagined going to. They have a spare ticket or whatever. So now you go, oh yeah, wait a second, did I create that? Yes, good answer. Or was it just coincidence? Did that person just happen to walk into the room, have spare tickets, and ask if anyone wanted to join them? So you will make it viable. You will make it, is that the word, viable? Like believable, like plausible to yourself through means of inserting certain things into your reality one sequence at a time, obviously, because that's how we're conditioned, that there's linear time and that this comes first and that. You can't just jump from this to that. So even if you are imagining this, you will generate a sense of some kind of time in between now and then, which is great because you can learn from that. You can express things in that time lag, in that time gap. But the way to close that gap faster and faster is to realize and understand that reality Z is as far from reality A as reality B is from reality A. Why? Because one picture has nothing to do with another picture. One reality has nothing to do with the next moment. There is no structural causality anywhere. Knowing this, suddenly your mind can start to see how reality works, and once you start to see how reality works, you start to believe that that is how it works. Once you believe how that's how it works, then the viable means in which a new expression can come to you can be way more flexible, because you're no longer as rigid in believing that it has to take a long time. Does that make sense? Cool. So it's still going to appear to you in a way that is plausible to you. It always has to honor your belief system, your free will, your level of free will. But there is very clever tools and techniques and ways of seeing live that can allow that reality to come through that much faster. And it's all about letting go of the resistance to the infinite possibilities that all coexist as parallel realities. Understanding that this is how reality works, that this is what is actual. This is not science fiction. This is fact. So shift your vibration. What do you desire? Do not take your cue from what's possible based on what you see. Do not take your cue on your present container because it's the reflection of what you thought before. What do you wish to create? You got to detach yourself from feeling tied to your present physical manifestation, the slide that is in front of your consciousness right now. Realize that you are consciousness, not the slide you're seeing, not the picture you've created. That's your creation, it's not your consciousness. And that your consciousness has the ability to change the picture, to change into a parallel reality, more consciously, more intentionally. Realize this, and then set your intention. Then know that you want to be something, someone in a certain way. You want to feel a certain way. Something is relevant for you that you've always kept small and suppressed. What is that? Who are you really? Who were you as a kid? Who did you know that you were? What was your favorite superhero? And that's closer to who you actually are than who you've become right now. Mine is Superman. Obviously. That is who I am. That is closer to the vibration that I am than who I would have been had I believed in all the nonsense other people told me. So, who do you believe in? Who is your inspiration? Because everyone that inspires you shows you more of who you truly are. So take a few people or a few persons, whether fictional or a fact, both are the same thing, because everything coexists and is equally valid in the eyes of consciousness, equally real. Who are you inspired by? What are you inspired by? What inspires you? What do you look up to? But in a good way, not like, oh, in a good way. What do you look up to? What inspires you? Who are your icons? That is who you are. At least a portion of that is reflected in them as reminders on your path given to you by your higher self to go in those directions, to embody those energies, those principles, that vibratory state that these icons represent for you. Desire is your guiding compass. Passion. Life is passion. Life is passion. You can take this in a very distorted way, as most people have done, very unconsciously. But you can take that same power and just flip it upside down in an instant. And you can start using that power, that passion, to create your life in a way that actually works for you. That's actually in alignment with what you came here to become, to be, to express yourself through. So make that shift in allegiance. Know that you can utilize this power in a way that serves you. And let go of all negative beliefs, no, all negative thoughts. Ease yourself into knowing that there is infinite possibilities, infinite abundance. Believe in yourself. Very important. More important than anything else, really. Believe in yourself. Your true self, what you know you are. Give it voice. Give it a path. Give it manifestation. Stop creating things that are not meant to be for you. You're stealing someone else's job. Someone else's passion. Suddenly they are without a passion and they're depressed too because you stole theirs. Why? Because daddy and mommy told you that you're obligated to. If you don't do this, you will not be loved. Oh, okay. Of course. Yeah, love me. I want to be loved. Oh, sad. You want to be loved? You want to be loved? Who wants to be loved? Raise your hand. Good. Of course you want to be loved. Everybody wants to be loved. But there's a very sad way to go about it, which sounds like this. And there's a very happy way to go about it, which sounds like something along those lines. You can make it yours, but so, would you like to ask your question? If you could use the microphone. If you don't want to be on camera, that's fine, but at least use the microphone so that the people at home can hear your question. And of course, if you want to come up here, that's awesome too.
This works. So while we're in Superman mode, so I'm creating that you're training a bunch of supermen and women, and we're on a planet, and I even forgot about this, but there's actually 50,000 or so little bombs that are nuclear, that a group of people this big with screwdrivers and maybe a wrench or two could take apart in about 2 weeks. So the question is, since we have physically, we could do that, no problem. The best way to work with the powers that be so that they actually would pay us to do that, I mean, that would be more fun than getting put in jail without permission to do that. So I like having more fun in my life, and so I just thought I would throw that out and let you take it. You know, that's the question. How do we, since all things are equally possible. So I've been obsessing about money. I want to get paid for my work because I've been doing this for 40 years.
Dismantling nuclear bombs?
Yeah, in my mind. Yeah, sure. No, I'm not the only one.
Right.
All yours.
So, well, what is your question?
Well, how do we get our consciousness so we're like actually believing that I'm just not a crazy man? To go to, so that we can actually...
I'm not convinced you're not.
Okay, well, that's okay. I like it. But it's fun. It's actually fun to be nuts.
It is, but we're all crazy.
Yeah.
That's how we can all have our own reality, you see.
Yeah.
We're all completely delusional. So I completely agree with your statement.
So I'm just saying how we spread this consciousness so that there isn't anything out there, but seemingly there's a CNN and a government that I have to ask permission to dismantle their, worldwide. I mean,
no, you don't. They are a reflection of you.
So they love what I'm talking about right now.
Yeah, they can if you want them to. Do you want them to?
Why not?
Yeah, own your government. It's your reality. There's infinite realities. In some, the government is externalized as a creature of power that has power over you. Nothing is further from the truth. But there's realities where that illusion also disappears and the government starts to reflect the understanding of the collective that you then shift into, the understanding being, the government is us. It's us making our choices. Again, understand that the government is not to blame for any single thing, nor are its shadow operations, nor are the Illuminati, no one else is to blame for anything. You know why they all are seemingly in control is because we're lazy. We're lazy motherfuckers. We're fucking lazy. We're fucking lazy. We're vibrationally lazy. Again, it's like, oh yeah, I don't care about my life. Of course, someone has to take care of things. We're not doing it. We're not choosing to be of the vibratory state where we are in control of our lives. We are consciously making ourselves unconscious. We are choosing, by default, we're choosing to give away our power. And then we complain about the powers that be. Well, then take care of it yourself. Become who you really are. Start taking charge. Start inventing things to clean out dependence. Start inventing new monetary systems. Start creating things. Start creating groups, start creating consciousness, basically, conscious vibrations. If you await what will happen to you, what you generate is outside powers, still created out of your own higher self energy. They're just appearances, reflections of your own consciousness energy. But you will make it look as if they are separate beings that have power over you, but only because you give it away. Only because you're waiting for your life to change. If only they would change this, then I could be happy. Then I could have what I want. So stop waiting. When we all as a collective stop waiting, the government disappears. Disappears completely. Doesn't mean there won't be any councils or stuff like that, but it will be completely different. It will be like a bunch of wise men representing humanity, but completely transparently so. As actual representations of the collective consciousness, not separated, not segregated, no secrets. Secrets, I completely agree with the government. Secrets have to be kept from the public. Not ultimately, obviously. But why? Because you're not ready. You're not ready. You're not fucking ready. Again, sorry for the language today, but I'm passionate. You're not ready, okay? Yes, ultimately you are, but you're still taking on the sheep mentality. So secrets will vibrationally, since the universe is an exact match to us as a collective as well, and you as an individual, because you choose the collective you're in because of the individual that you are. As long as you give away your power, as long as you feel like a victim, as long as you feel like you have no control of your life, you will always, out of your own energy, generate the exact reflection of that externalized. And then you go and blame the externalization, which is your own creation and your own choice, but you forgot that it was. So you're not ready to hear the secrets, clearly because they're not disclosed fully yet. It's happening slowly, gradually, and more rapidly. So there will be a completely transparent governmental idea until even that is no longer really necessary, and even that starts to change. But only as a reflection of your readiness to embrace things you did not know existed before. And embody that and integrate that in a powerful way instead of a more scary way and a more victimizing way. There's lots of things they could disclose to you that you are not ready for. In that sense, I agree with those secrets. But only because they are an exact reflection of you, and it should inspire you to raise your level of frequency, your consciousness. Take responsibility for who you are. Feel that you are in control. Know that you are creator of your universe. And then, there's no need for secrets. But then, you are ready. Does that answer your question?
Great.
Or something?
Yeah, please help me start Victims Anonymous.
Awesome.
I think this might be this is a good first step.
Awesome.
Who's next?
Do you want me to sit up there?
I want you to sit up
You want
here,
me to
but
sit-
that's
okay,
up to
I'll
you.
sit up there.
Whatever you prefer.
Hi. Being here is making my heart beat.
Lovely, you're alive.
Yes.
Notice how happy you are to be alive, how excited you are to be here. It's just like a cutting edge little moment of your
Yeah.
day. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. I'm really interested in what are powerful practices other
Okay.
than noticing in the moment and changing the vibration, maybe with a thought of my icon or my superhero, maybe. I mean,
Sure.
what is
Is this your
working
first
practice?
Is this your first visit to one of my meetings?
With you, yes.
Okay, cool. So just in general, for those that are new, I can recommend, if you want to skip a few steps and go all the way to the more powerful stuff, my previous 3 sessions here were of that nature, different techniques, different practices, and you can watch them on YouTube, at least for now. So if you look up Become a Manifestation Powerhouse, Imagineer Your Life, and what's the other one called? The last one.
We can write it down for people.
Okay, we can write it down. What was the last one? Yes, a simple method to raise your frequency and vibration. So become a manifestation powerhouse, Imagineer Your Life, and wait, what? Like I said, you start forgetting things. Simple method to raise your frequency and vibration.
Go to your YouTube channel and it'll be on YouTube.
Yeah, so youtube.com/Bentinho Massaro. I'm sure my name is somewhere here, so if you don't know how to spell that. And then /videos, for example. So I can recommend that, like for more in-depth, but I can just briefly give a few quick examples, if you want. Can you rephrase your question one more time in one sentence?
What's the most powerful practice?
Oh. The most powerful practice is out of reach for most people. So, but I will share it. And it is to know that it is done. Wait, what? Like I said. So, to know that it is done. But you see, before we know something, when we know something, it's fact, it's a reality, that becomes our universe. So as soon as there's total knowingness, it will be reflected in your behavior, in your belief system, in your energy field, in your personality, in your actions, in your physical circumstantial reality, in your finances, in your relationship, everywhere. Basically, everything you see today, everything you feel and experience today is based on a level of knowingness that you have, which is the state of being, the vibration. Now, the most powerful technique, which is not really technique, it's just a doing, it's an immediacy. It's like, how do you move your arm? You just do it. You just know it is done, and you don't need any other permission slips in order to get to where you want to be. However, for most people, in order to feel like they actually have shifted a knowingness, they need some time that does not exist. They need some permission symbols. They need some permission practices. They need some experience of going through different types of frequencies and then feeling like, oh wow, maybe this is actually possible. Okay, let me explore it. Okay, let me practice it. Oh hey, I see a reflection of it. Wow, it looks like it actually is possible. And so forth and so forth. And then at some point they arrive at a higher level of knowingness. The most powerful way to create your life in whatever way you see fit is to simply know that it has already happened, that it is true, that it is already so. If you can shift immediately your state of knowingness, then you don't need any intermediate in-between steps anymore. Yet, however, but I'm not saying this is impossible. It has simply been my experience that, including myself, you need some experience gaining confidence in the fact that you are creator of your reality. And absolutely, there's millions, billions of choices that I could not make starting right now. From that way, I would need permission symbols in order to believe that those things could be generated right away, right? So you always get to the point where you're at based on the changing of your belief systems and the practice and the confirmations that you get from the way reality works. Now this accelerates. This is an exponential line, meaning that 2 days from now, I'll be able to generate more than I could today, but that difference, the amount that I can create more than I can create today, is a greater difference already than the difference between 2 days ago and today, if that makes sense. It's a bad way of explaining it, but it's exponential. So you start to become more confident in this knowingness, and it is still an endless journey, both in this life and beyond this life. So this empowering journey is all about shifting your vibratory level, which is what you know to be true. So ideally, ultimately, with certain things at least, you can simply shift. No, absolutely no. There's a difference between thinking and believing, and then there's a difference between believing and knowing, right? Knowing is the most powerful. If you can go straight to the knowing aspect that something is done, it is done. It is done because knowingness creates the reality you're in. So it becomes physical immediately. Do you feel that serves you, or would you like one little step below that?
Yeah, I guess I do.
Okay.
Another step
Awesome.
below it. Or, yeah.
Would you like a little technique that gets you to greater ability to jump knowingness?
Yeah.
Okay. So I can rename some of the ones I did last week, but let me see if there's any other fun ways that come to mind. One fun way, which is actually quite powerful too, is to place what you desire in the future in your past. So imagine something that resonates for you, that you desire. And instead of creating this distance between now and then, which then creates the sense of lack, which then creates the feeling of lack then generates the lack of that reality, because what you're putting out is not, I have this, or I am this, but I don't have this, and I'm not this. So sometimes even your imagination, even your seeing what you desire, even creating your new imagination, tuning into your heart's reality, your true reality, can still generate an even greater dissatisfaction, because many people have learned to focus on lack. So one very crucial aspect is to diminish how much you focus on lack and start focusing on abundance, regardless of how real or delusional that may seem to you. You got to focus on the abundance of every moment. If you do that, you'll accelerate. So that's one technique. But specifically in terms of visualization technique, you can then take that very thing that you imagine is not yet here and place it in your past. Imagine what it was like when it happened 10 days ago. It felt so good when it happened 10 days ago. And just completely embody that imagination. This way you're actually accelerating the downloading of that parallel reality frequency into your present frequency output. And when your present frequency output reflects that new imagination, your reality will have to mirror that. So actually feel what it was like 10 days ago to have that revelatory moment. Wasn't that awesome? See the details, like how people responded, and actually place it in a real-time event in your past. Just alter some of your past. You can actually change your past because you just chose one image in that moment. You might as well have chosen this image in the past, 10 days ago. So place your future in your past. Caution, this might change your desires very quickly because you start achieving them very fast. You start just generally being happy because you know that you can own anything you desire. Just place it 10 days in the past or yesterday. Doesn't matter, as long as it's in the past. For some reason, it seems easier for people to put it in their past than it is to place it right here, right now. Because again, we're so used to focusing on the lack based on our present physical manifestation container that all we'll see is, no, it's not here, I'm just faking it. But if we use imagination and we give ourselves permission to imagine that it's in the past, then, oh, well, it's not here, so at least it was in the past. You can imagine that. But then it starts to feel more real, and then the frequency starts to increase, and you start to feel like you own it, you have had it, like it's already here. You start to tap into the version of yourself that does have that reality. And then it will start to be reflected to you because that's what creation has to do. It doesn't have a will of its own, so it will have to reflect the only will that exists, which is the free will of consciousness and its state of being. So place everything you desire a little bit in your past, a little while ago, and feel what that was like.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Awesome, beautiful. Well, keep vibrating at that level. Keep imagining the things you desire. If for you it seems like it's like your mind automatically places it in the future, then try placing it in the past. At some point, you will see everything is present. Mm-hmm. And so when you imagine a reality that's not yet your physical container, the sense of it not being here yet starts to disappear. So you start to blend that, and you start to feel the happiness you feel would it have been here, even though physically, logically, you could dictate that it's not here. But you're not doing that anymore. You're becoming more delusional, intentionally, consciously so. And then that reality will actually get a chance to manifest that much quicker. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So it's a little workaround. Awesome.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who's next?
So in general, I would suggest, as a very general method, see it, feel it, be it. You imagine what it is you desire. You imagine the version of yourself. You imagine the state of being you desire, and all the symbols that come with that, whether that's mundane, like a car and a house and money, the ability to do what you want to do whenever you want to do it, a piece of land, the partner that you're with, having a baby. Well, careful with that one. But anything that symbolizes your joy, your true self, your true happiness, the true vessel of creation that you are, the true means of expressing yourself, see it until you start to feel it, which is, the seeing is where your consciousness still feels like it's in this reality. But then it tunes into an alternate parallel reality which coexists within this single timeless moment that is all of existence. So the tuning into that other reality is the seeing it, the visualizing it, the imagining it. As soon as you imagine something and you really sort of let go in that imagination and you start seeing the details of it and you start to give yourself permission to enjoy it as if it's real, you start to feel it. First you see it, then you feel it. The feeling of it means that you're bridging the gap between this reality and the other one. It's the bridge. The feeling part is the bridge. It's where imagination starts to download the vibratory patterns of that parallel self, that parallel version of yourself, which has all these things that you desire. You start to feel it. That's what happens. When you start to feel it, you start to alter your vibrational field. When you start changing your vibrational field, at some point that becomes so real, so vivid, that it takes over. It becomes more real to you than your present physical manifestation reality. At that point, you are being it. You are knowing it. You are acting as if it. You are behaving accordingly. You are believing accordingly. So see it, feel it, be it. If the seeing of it in the future, if that still comes up from you, oh, this is in the future, it's not here yet. Place it in your past. Do with that whatever you want to. Place it in the present if you can. Then you start to feel it. Whatever you need to do to get past that seeing-feeling barrier, you need to drop into the feeling of it. If you can only visualize it but not feel it, you're blocking yourself somehow with the belief. So then use a workaround, like placing it in your past or being creative in whatever way. Checking out why you're resisting that image. How are you insisting that it's lacking right now? And then work around that. Somehow ease that. Somehow allow yourself to open up to where the seeing becomes the feeling. And when it becomes the feeling, it very, very quickly starts to become the being of it. And when it's the being of it, it's only a matter of physical time before it's very quickly reflected physically so.
Hi.
Hey.
So I'm wanting to check in with what may be a limiting belief. But I
Awesome.
want your help with it.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay. There's two. One is, that idea of like someone's going to punch me in the face.
Yes.
We had earlier.
Fun.
Perhaps the punch in the face is somehow related to my earlier thoughts or my earlier creation.
Uh-huh.
So the punch is still coming.
Uh-huh.
And what I like is you were saying the punch is coming, but
Sure.
I don't have to get wed to the reality of the punch. I'm holding,
Yes.
and that way I'm not as kind of tethered to all my past thoughts.
Yes.
Even though there may be something still arriving from those thoughts.
Exactly.
Is that
like
right?
Like an echo.
Right.
Like yes.
So is it possible then that some of what's arriving now is that echo
Oh yes, all the time.
all the time?
All the time. That's why it's crucial to not take your cue from your physical circumstances, because what you're hearing and seeing is always the past.
Okay.
Now this bridge becomes thinner and thinner, and you'll start to see more and more the reflection become more and more immediately who you actually are, but you're in physical reality while you're physically present, physically focused with a portion of your consciousness. Some people call it incarnation, but it's simply being physically focused. There's always going to be some difference between where you're at and what your creation shows you. It's always going to be a past reflection to some extent.
Right.
You're always going to be beyond it a little bit. But that's good. That's how you keep creating. That's why life is never stagnant.
Okay. So maybe this is just giving permission then. So if life, if you're a Tibetan monk and your country gets taken over, maybe there's an echo that arrived there.
Yes.
And that doesn't mean that you're not still shifting your relationship. Yet, I don't know, for some reason I have a desire that we name those echoes, because otherwise when people are experiencing the echoes, they're going to drop your idea.
Yes, exactly. So this is what I call the 3-day process.
Okay.
So very briefly, because it's on YouTube too, just Google the 3-day process. Day 1, this is a representation, right? So it's not actually 3 days. It can be 3 minutes, can be 3 seconds, can be 3 weeks, can be 3 years, depends on the creation. But this is the 3-stage process that each creation goes through. Day 1, you have this new vision for yourself, this new intention, this new realization. Oh, wait a second, this is who I am. I'm going to change my frequency. I'm going to see it, feel it, be it, right? We all have these moments. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to change my relationship. Some kind of significant, or maybe just a sub-significant, like a small change, but something you're passionate about. You feel this passion, you feel this inspiration, you're on fire, things seem to going well for you that very day. Day 1, everything goes smoothly. Day 1 is the new excitement day, and you're happy and everything is well, and you're God, and you're powerful, and you're connected. Then day 2 comes around the corner. Day 2 is the day of challenge, of testing, of the echo, of the reflection of your old thought. Why is this occurring? It's not because your higher self is out to get you. It's because it's like a safety pin on a gun. It's not going to allow you to pull the trigger on actually changing your entire reality until you give it the green light once more. So day 1 is the initial signal, but you have to double that effect. Sometimes triple it, sometimes quadruple it. But you need to be consistent. You need to say, this is actually who I wish to become. This is actually what I want. This is actually what I prefer. This is what I am ready for. Now, if you cannot even maintain your new frequency in the reflection of your old reality, you won't be able to handle your new reality. So it's actually for your own safety, for your own psyche, so that you don't go psychotic, that there is a safety trigger. This is the day 2 challenge. An old reflection will show up. Your partner will doubt your decision. They will not agree that you quit your job because what about the financial situation? And it will bring up your doubts. Yeah, maybe you're right. I should just be a realist. I remember when I was believing in my dreams and it never worked out. Why? Because you always stopped at day 2. Very good point you made. When people hit the day 2 challenge, the echo, they are going to drop what I said, because the way we approach that is to focus the lack aspects, to emphasize the lack aspects. Now start emphasizing the abundance aspects to the point where you're completely blind to the lack aspects. If you can do that, then you can maintain your frequency throughout that challenging experience. You cannot see a single molecule in that circumstance. All you see is you're completely being blinded by your own frequency. You're overpowering yourself with your own happiness. You're being delusional, yes. If you do that, your delusion becomes a reality. We're all delusional. Right now, we're all delusional. We call this reality, but that's because we faked it till we made it. Now fake it till you make it again. We call the faking it, oh, it's just imagination, it's just daydreaming, it's just being childlike, it's just delusional. Yes, but that's how you create reality. It's actually an aspect of creating your physical reality. So throughout day 2, the day 2 is the day of challenge, you maintain your new frequency at all costs. Whatever it takes. You uproot those negative beliefs. You see them, but you see them as positive events. If you feel a negative thing, it means success. It means your frequency is getting so high that this new thing is being exposed because it no longer fits in. So you need to address it somehow. You need to look at the belief and go, is this still serving me? No, I don't believe in this anymore. I believe in my happiness. I believe happiness will bring me everything I need. I believe that my joy, my inspiration, my creativity will always be able to support me. I believe I'm always supported by myself. Whoa, okay. The old belief disappears. You are now able to handle your new reality, and day 3 is then the day of transformation, confirmation, and celebration. And your new reality starts to appear.
The one thing I notice is not everything takes 3 days.
Exactly. It's a symbol.
So that's a symbol? Okay.
You could call it the 3-stage process if you want.
Okay. So it could take a different amount of time depending on your consciousness and depending on the echoes.
Exactly. And depending on the type or the gravity of the, not gravity, but the perceived gravity of the new dream that you're inserting. Right? If it's like to move to Cuba and to like be president there, that might have a perceived gravity that does not necessarily equate very closely to the present reality you've created.
Right.
So there may be more day 2 challenges there than there may be when it comes to, oh, I want to change my diet a little bit tomorrow. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it depends on that a little bit, like how long that time frame is. The 3 days are just symbolic.
Symbolic. So
Yeah,
it
you could
take-
call it the 3-stage process too, or the
Okay.
3 stages of creation.
Okay. Good. That feels good.
Awesome.
And then in the other one, you're saying me, and I'm just curious, there's all of that expressing here, and there's all of that expressing there.
Yes.
And how much do they have to come along?
Not at all.
None.
Not at all.
Okay.
No. However, mechanically speaking, not at all, right? You could shift into whatever. You could shift into parallel reality where everything is purple. They don't have to agree with that. You would simply be in a reality where they would not exist, or a different version of them would be created, and you could say, oh, hey, you shifted with me. Oh, fun. But it is up to you. In a sense, you're creating your own reality all the time, and it's, in that sense, individual. However, there are other consciousnesses, and those are embodied by those beings that we create our own reflections of here. So there is some type of actual interaction going on every moment that you interact with someone, even though your experience of that is generated out of your energy, and their experience, their I amness, their consciousness projects it onto their screen in their particular configuration, and there are differences. The difference being that it's completely your energy, and to them it's completely their energy. However, the interaction is still happening. There's still communication happening. There's still transformation happening. So that the communication is real, but the energy you experience them as is made out of your energy. Otherwise, you could not experience it, because you can only experience your energy. That being said, then there are consciousness that all of our consciousnesses on this planet Earth, and there's many planet Earths, agree to experience a similar collective agreement situation, which is what we could call our present time, right? Now we come here not only to be individuals, we come here also to explore what it's like to share, to communicate, to receive. Those are all parts of our individual desire, of our theme of exploration. And many of us are here at this particular timing for this time of transformation, of going from dark into light, of going from unconsciousness into consciousness. So you will always be able to, if it's actually relevant for you, if it's actually your highest desire, you can shift to whatever universe is relevant for you. At any given time. You're never stuck where you're stuck. You're only stuck, seemingly stuck here out of choice, right? So as soon as that choice actually changes, you're good to depart, you know? You could, in a sense, die, or you could disappear, or whatever. You could shift into a parallel reality, parallel collective reality. No one here has to agree with that choice, if that choice is completely relevant and genuine for you. However, and this is my point, you came here to have a shared collective transformative experience. In other words, you will create the illusion of, or the experience of, collective gradual transformation where everyone, or at least certain subgroups, certain subcollectives, agree to move at a certain pace from darkness into light. And the pace at which it is relevant for you to go from darkness into light and to have a consensus reality from darkness into light, to that extent, or of that nature, will you attract a subcollective that then becomes your entire collective. At some point, that subcollective becomes so totally your reality and so different from the other collectives which are moving at different speeds, that what seemingly first is a subcollective inside of Planet Earth Collective, at some point will become your entire civilization, your entire collective experience, because you're entirely in your own parallel reality of that nature. And every parallel reality at this particular timing collectively is splitting off and becoming more precisely its own reality. So in a sense, choose wisely, choose who you are, become more and more of who you really are in the upcoming months, in the upcoming years, so that you will be part of the subgroup that you actually resonate with, that you actually excites you. Not that you can never change if it doesn't fully resonate, you always can. But it becomes less obvious. Right now it's very obvious that you can choose your group, you can choose your reality, you can choose out of this mixed bag that we call planet Earth of the past few thousand years. You can now, we're at this cutting edge time where all these subgroups start to form, all these subcultures start to form. And it might not be as obvious yet, but they start to move apart from each other. And this is not a bad thing. They will all go on to become their own civilization. So pick your frequency for yourself as wisely as you can, and you will naturally attract the subgroup that then becomes your collective. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Cool. So in other words, you will keep up with the pace. Yes, you will gravitate together.
And what I noticed is, maybe it's a small self that has a fantasy. Well, I'm out of here. I'm going to go to this other perfect realm where everyone's happy all the time.
Beautiful. You have a memory of home.
Yeah. And that was good.
That doesn't mean you didn't come here to be here.
Yeah, because what I feel is my superhero doesn't actually have a desire in this moment to go back to that realm.
Oh, cool.
Like my superhero has a desire to hang out with these guys.
Exactly, that's why you're here. Beautiful.
Yeah, and so for me, there's something about that collective that's super fascinating.
Exactly,
and
totally.
Yeah, and I feel passionate about that.
You do, yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, there you go. Clear as a whistle.
Yeah.
And you can enjoy, whatever you remember of your home vibration, whatever that may be, but that non-physical state of being that you see glimpses of in physical reality and that you feel so attracted to. If someone shows a similar frequency, you fall in love with them, right? That kind of stuff.
Right.
So those glimpses are to show you, in a sense, who you are, where you come from, what's natural, what's home, what's germane to you, so that you can merge what you see here with that. You can blend these two.
Well, that's what it feels like to me.
Yes.
Like the memory is not only the past, it's the future.
Yes, very
And
good.
so what I have felt or remember is also where I'm going.
Yes.
And
thank
yet
you.
somehow I'm meant to inform others of that place.
Simultaneously, you're also here executing more of that home frequency, discovering more of that home frequency from a place of denseness and from a place of darkness,
Yeah.
quote unquote darkness or ignorance, so that you can remember more and more of it, and you can aid and assist in the
yeah.
collective's frequency altogether, raising to become more of that.
Exactly. And now I understand better why I wanted to ask the first question, which I don't know if I expressed properly, which is, for my own self,
Yeah.
the doubt appears if I set up an idea that I should feel a physical manifestation, like I'm looking for proof, and if the proof doesn't occur, that could put me into a stream of doubt. And what I feel is, yes, I feel that past, I feel that future, but I'm not looking for like a Corvette in my parking lot tomorrow. I'm not putting, my images aren't in that like, it's not my small self fantasy that I should see appearing. And that if people in this room listen and they go, oh, well, if I spend 3 days and meditate on a Corvette, it should show up in my driveway, and if it doesn't, then they're going to say this isn't real. So what I feel motivated to say is somehow to distinguish that what you're saying is absolutely true, but what's manifesting is different than that fantasy, and
Yes.
it's coming from a larger stream,
Exactly.
and its timing is perfect and occurring.
Yeah.
So you have to step out of like a small self version of what that would be,
Exactly.
because you'll just prove this wrong.
Exactly.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
what I needed to say.
Very nice. I'll elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah.
So I call that relevance, like the difference between your personal desire and what's actually relevant for you. Or sometimes I call it finding the balance between will and faith. But also what's very important, what you touched upon, is the fact that the symbol you imagine, if that is a Corvette that excites you, realize that it is about the frequency that it triggers in you, the state of being that it triggers in you when you think of the Corvette. It's not in the actual Corvette, right? It's not in the actual image. And if you let that flow, if you have the combination of the intention and the willingness to perceive what resonates for you, but then to also have the wisdom and the faith that the resonance is what it's about, the frequency, the state of being is what you want the feeling of it, you want the beingness of it, you don't want the actual representation of it, then things can actually manifest in a flowy way for you and accelerate in such a way that you actually get the things you actually desire, which sometimes does not end up being what from a previous lower vibratory state you thought you wanted. From that state, all that you had as a symbol to represent your true heart's frequency might have been a Corvette. But once you actually bridge that gap and increase your frequency that is represented by the Corvette, at that point, once you've let go of the fact that it should be a Corvette, it might be Tesla. And that might be even better because you don't have to go to the gas station anymore, etc. And you can go from 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds, which is pretty cool. So, but you also have to let go of the Tesla, telling myself this, right? So because something even better may occur. Something even more relevant might arrive, right?
Yeah, so somehow surrendering to the you that's already existing, but
That's
larger,
already
and
got you. It's
Yeah.
already got you. It's
and
already
not
supporting
getting,
you.
Yeah, not getting caught up,
Yes.
in an ice
Just
version
don't
of you.
insist. Just don't insist. Create as much as you want, but don't insist. If you can keep that in mind every once in a while, that you don't have to insist upon the imagery you see, the seeing, feeling, being it. It's just a process of creation. It's an endless process of expansion. But what you want is the expansion. You want to become more of the frequency of yourself. And then naturally, things will start to reflect that exactly as they need to reflect that. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
Yes. Good side note. Good addition. Well, my friends, thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for creating and co-creating your life in this way, to have this interaction, which is beautiful. I appreciate your presence, your willingness. And I hope you choose to be happy and in tune with yourself. I hope you start caring about your life once again, no matter how many times you've put yourself down, no matter how many times you've blocked yourself, no matter how many times you've resisted what you deserve, to the point of feeling betrayed by life and like nothing is possible. You can still get up. It's never too late. If it was too late, you'd be dead. Because consciousness does not waste resources. If you're still sitting here today and you're still breathing and you can still hear my voice, that means there's still hope for you. That means that in an instant you can switch this negative spiral around and turn it into a completely aligning, exciting, mind-blowing spiral of creation, of joy, of participation, of belonging, of being connected, of never lacking again, of being abundant, of being infinite, of being in love with everything, with yourself, most of all. So I hope that is your choice, something along those lines, but make it your own, as always. Thank you. For those that are interested in returning here, sometimes for the Mondays, whenever there is a cancellation and or when there is a theme that comes up, we'll send that through the newsletter. If you want to be notified of the Boulder Local newsletter, I think is there a piece of paper? Yes. There's a piece of paper at the table there, so you can leave your email address. Please write in print as clearly as you can. And then you'll get a confirmation email, which you'll probably have to click a link that says confirm your subscription. That way we can let you know if there's a sudden cancellation and or what the theme is, etc. Thank you. Enjoy your lives.